Hey, what's up guys, it's Renaldo here. So this video is going to focus on Helen Zille being nominated as the mayoral candidate for the Democratic Alliance for the city of Johannesburg. Now I'll give my take on it just now, but let's just read what mainstream media had to say. So Business Tech came out, said Helen Zille officially selected as DA's mayoral candidate for Johannesburg. And it says the DA has officially nominated the party's federal chair and former leader Helen Zille to stand as its candidate for Joburg mayor in the 26th municipal election. The party announced the nomination in Soweto on Saturday, the 20th of September, saying that the city deserved honest leadership to pull it out of crisis. What we have today is not governance, it's decay, and it cannot continue, said DA leader John Steenhuisen. The next local government election is not DA versus ANC, it's a choice between decay and renewal, where the DA governs outright, we deliver, and then blah 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 blah, the speech. Alright, so disclaimer. I am a former member of the Democratic Alliance. I was with them for 12 years. I was a member of parliament for them. I was a councillor for them. Internally, I was a person that was part of the provincial council and the federal council. So I kind of have insight into the DA. My membership with the DA was terminated just over a year ago. So I think that I still know, what is internally going on with the DA. So if you think now that what I'm about to say is just me being a bitter ex, then just tune out. Don't worry about it. If your brain can only think that me being critical of the DA is somehow me being a bitter ex, then whatever. It is what it is. I'm just going to give my insight irrespective. So the first thing that I have to say is the DA made a very good decision in choosing Helen Zille as the mayoral candidate for the DA for Johannesburg. So perfect call there. They used their greatest weapon in arguably the metro that they've wanted the most outside of Cape Town, right? So they made a good call there. They also realized that Helen Zille's brand is bigger than the DA. So having Helen Zille on the ballot means that people that might not want to vote for the DA will now be voting for Helen Zille, which indirectly is voting for the DA. And you can see that this is kind of popping up all across the country. The DA's stock has declined exponentially after the 2024 national elections, and a lot of people feel betrayed by the Democratic Alliance. I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to go into specifics, but there's a lot of Schweizereinekes that have happened over the last year that individually would have caused damage to the DA, but because it's so many of them, it has caused, a problem that the DA, I think, might only realize after the municipal elections are done. Now, my take on this is actually a lot deeper than what people realize. Now, you have to ask yourself, why would a former mayor of Cape Town, a former leader of the DA, a former premier of the Western Cape, when she is 75 years old, decide to run as the mayoral candidate for the DA in Johannesburg? And the answer to that is because there really is nobody else. The DA has had a big issue for the last, I would say, 8 years, in which the DA internally have tried to suppress anybody that is trying to build an identity that isn't 100% part of the DA. Now, this happened to me. As soon as my YouTube channel became more and more popular, more and more people inside the DA told me, tone it down. Remember, nobody's bigger than the organization. So the DA has built this internal system where you can't really build a following or gain a following, because if you do so, then the people inside the DA sees that as a risk, not only to the party, but they see it as a risk to internal individuals that want to stand for different positions. So the DA hasn't moved with the times. The DA still believes that You must not be vocal outside of politics. You're not allowed to have an identity outside of politics in the public domain. If you are a DA councillor, that is your entire existence. If you're a DA MP, that's your entire existence. The DA still truly believes that people are robots and that, you are a politician. You have to do things this way and that way. They haven't realized that people buy into personalities. People want just honest individuals that speak their mind. And that is what people are looking for in politicians, because the fact that so many politicians in this country have disappointed the voters, have stolen things, have been part of corruption, have lied. So people are buying more and more into an individual rather than a political party. And the fact that Helen Zille had to be picked for this position just tells you that there's nobody else, because they've limited themselves. Because other than John Steenhuisen, Helen Zille, who else is there? I mean, I know that you can mention Dean McPherson, Emma Powell, you can mention a bunch of names, but do you think that they have the power and brand recognition to get support for the DA? The answer is no. And this is the DA's own fault. The DA has this phenomenal program called the Young Leadership Program that I graduated from in 2013, I believe. But they can never ever hold on to 90% of the young leaders that go through that process. So they have this phenomenal program that teaches you, this is what the party is, this is what the party expects, this is what South Africa is, this is what South Africa expects. And then they just completely let people go on their merry way, and they don't nurture that talent to be something more. Now, of course, there are some success stories, some people that went from the Young Leadership Program to become ministers or deputy ministers right now. But ultimately, 90% of the people that go through that program just get tossed to the wayside, or they go into, the private sector. So the DA has created their own problem of brand recognition that goes beyond the DA. They can't put somebody else as the mayoral candidate for the DA in Johannesburg, because if they had to put somebody there, they would first have to work on building this person's public image and then convince people to vote for this individual. Whereas with Helen Zille, you know what you get. And it's weird because this is also something that the DA, I would say, did about 8 years ago, where they made a conscious decision that nobody is bigger than the party. Because if you think about it, Helen Zille is an individual on her own. Obviously, her life is intertwined with the DA, but Helen Zille still has a brand outside of the DA. Tony Leon has a brand outside of the DA. Musi Maimane has a brand, even though it's shit, but he has a brand outside of the DA. John Steenhuisen, well, yeah, let's keep it there. But the point that I'm making is the DA is its own worst enemy, because for the last 8 to 10 years, it has tried to keep people down from rising in the party and building, a reputation also outside of the party. And this is why a former premier, a former leader of the party, a former mayor of Cape Town, and the current federal executive chair have to throw her hat in the ring to be a mayoral candidate. I mean, I'm sure she doesn't actually want to do it, but she realizes that the DA's stock has become so terrible and so worthless, if I'm honest, that she has to stand and she has to take her identity and her brand recognition to convince people to vote for the DA. And that says a lot, because ultimately, moving forward, what happens if Helen decides to retire? What happens when John is eventually replaced as the leader of the DA? Who is going to replace John Steenhuisen? The reason that he thinks that he's going to get a second term is because there isn't anybody within the DA that has got brand recognition like John Steenhuisen. And this is almost done by design within the DA. Because the DA, when they do the internal voting for leaders and people moving up in the ranks, There's already internal factional battles taking place, and that is why they would rather go, all right, nobody is allowed, to build a brand outside of the DA because it might hurt internal people within the DA. But what they don't realize is without that brand recognition, like Helen Zille has, like John Steenhuisen has, like Musi Mamane had, like Tony Leon has, if they don't nurture that talent, they're eventually going to have a bunch of no-name nobodies that's standing for senior positions within South Africa. And hopefully they will turn that around so that people like Ian Cameron, Emma Powell, Retief Odendaal, that they actually can build a brand outside of the DA that will still assist the DA. But I would like to know your thoughts. Do you seem to think the same way that I'm thinking about this? Or do you think this is just a case of Helen Zille really loves Johannesburg. Helen Zille at 75 years old is still going to be active as what she was when she was the mayor of Cape Town. And by the way, I'm not using her age to say that, oh, she's old and she can't do it. No, I'm saying that at that age, surely you also can't keep up with somebody that is 45 years old or 50 years old. It's really not a dig at her age saying that she's not competent. I would say that she is one of the most competent people in South Africa to become the mayor of Johannesburg. But is the reason for it because she actually wants to do it? Or is the reason that there really is nobody else because the DA has created this vacuum of people that others can relate to and go, wow, that guy, I like him and he's part of the DA, or that woman I like her and she's part of the DA. I truly believe that the DA has created this monster of anonymity almost within the organization, and now they are finally realizing the consequences of that decision 8 to 10 years ago. Like I said, many times when I made YouTube videos and when I spoke out publicly against things, still following the DA line, by the way, but speaking out against injustices, I was told, tone it down. You're not bigger than the DA. Nobody's bigger than the DA. If you want to build a brand outside of the DA, then leave the DA. Those are things that were told to me. And here we are with somebody that's got so much experience and is so much better internally with the DA. She has to now throw her hat in the ring for a mayor position in a major metro in South Africa. So all of this just leads to the fact that, in my opinion, the DA has got two big issues. Firstly, they don't have recognizable individuals within the organization outside of Helen, John, and that's pretty much it. And secondly, it's that they realize that they need to do damage control, and a lot of people won't be voting for the DA, but they might still vote for somebody like Helen Zille. So once again, it's ironic how now the brand of the individual might save the DA, where the DA for the last 8 to 10 years have consistently said nobody's bigger than the party and the DA comes first. And now it's like, well, the thing that you've been preaching against is the thing that you need in order to get support, hopefully to get you above the 50% line in order to get the metro of Johannesburg. So just an observation that I've made, use it, don't use it. Let me know your thoughts though. I'd like to know if you enjoy these deep analyses videos. Let me know if you want more of it, because I can gladly do it about other political parties too. The only reason I did this is because I know Helen, I know the DA, and to me, something is very fishy over here. But that's pretty much all I got to say. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please be sure to smash the like button, share this video far and wide, subscribe. And if you enjoy my content and if you enjoy this channel, then please consider becoming a member. You can do so by clicking the join button below. And that's all I got to say. Till later. Cheers and peace out.
You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. I wear my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, my